This is this is Chris. Zach, I was wondering about the other businesses in the area. How high do you know is the pilot sign? Is it comparable to this request, or just having a reference? Because when I look at the pictures, the pilot sign appears considerably smaller. As far as height, as far as the height is concerned, it appears to be considerably lower, and it's tucked way back almost into the forest, as compared to sitting right out against the freeway. I guess it makes me wonder, competitor-wise, I don't see that the Speedway necessarily has a disadvantage regarding signage.
Right. So, Mr. Wani, staff's analysis of the case didn't include a whole lot of detail about the pilot sign, mostly because it's a grandfathered situation and any new business would not be able to get anywhere close to even the amount of signage that pilot has. I do have up on the screen, and I could probably pull up a better Google view or something of it, but 0.3 miles looking eastbound in I-40, the pilot sign is back here. Now, of course, you're closer to the proposed Speedway sign here, I think I don't have the exact data on how tall it is with me, because just the fact that staff was not considering that as a large part of the analysis of the case, basically because that's just a grandfather situation and it doesn't relate to anything that's related on any other property than that. But I believe it's somewhere in around 80, 90 feet in height, something like that. I would have to get back to you on exactly what that was.
Thank you.
So, Zach, so we've talked a lot about the size of the second sign. I just wanted to talk about a second sign, period, no matter what size it is. The zoning for the area is for one sign, is what I'm understanding. Without talking about as big as this sign is going to be, what would be the benefit or the reason to need another sign at that location?
Well, Madam Chair, I can't speak as much to the need for it. And I think when we get to the point where the applicant is up to speak, they can discuss with the board what their business plan with it was. Mm-hmm. But certainly no zone in Coconino County allows 2 freestanding signs.
Okay, that's what so that to me, what it seemed like, notwithstanding whatever size it is, just the fact that looking to double signage is not something that is usually permitted or advocated for unless there's a very specific reason for it.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Zach, this is Chris again. The second sign, I think one of the slides showed that it's to direct parking. Is that correct? It's not another Speedway sign. It's a sign to show where the trucks park.
Yeah, I think it was a truck directional sign.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions of staff at this time?
Not me.
Okay, so I will ask if the applicant is here, and if the applicant, which I think so, and if you would like to address the board, please state your name and mailing address. And then if there's anything that you would like to add to Zach's presentation, or any questions that we'd like to clarify, then this would be the time for that.
Certainly. So my name is Natalie McCoskey. I'm with EPS Group. Our address is 1130 North Palma School Road, Suite 120, Mesa, Arizona, 85201. And I do have a presentation I can pull up if you'd like.
Natalie, let me know if you're having issues sharing. I think that Marty gave you permissions to do so, but if not, we'll work on it together.
He did. Let me just get it. All right, can everybody see that?
I can see it.
Cool, thanks for confirming. So as you know, our request is one, to allow 2 signs where 1 freestanding sign is permitted. However, per your code section 4.2.c.5.c, in the CH-10,000 zone where we lie, 2 signs are permitted through design review overlay, which we currently have being reviewed with Bob Short. So that process, or that approval, is also being requested through DRO as well as through here. Second is for a sign greater than 15 feet in height and greater than 100 square feet in area, which is your code minimum. And that would be applied not to the sign on the frontage along Shadow Mountain Road. That's not the sign we'd like. To meet code, it'll be 15 feet and is currently under 100 square feet. I think it's at 72 square feet proposed right now. So the sign that would be greater than 15 feet and greater than 100 square feet would be the goalpost sign, which Zach had in his presentation, and that would be at the corner along the Transwestern Road and the I-40 frontage. So we understand that we have to meet at least one of the findings of facts, A through C, as well as all of the findings of facts, D through E, and the additional findings for signs 1 and 2. So for finding of fact A, the variance is necessary for the preservation of our substantial property rights, and that strict or literal interpretation and enforcement of the specified regulation would result in practical difficulty or unnecessary physical hardship inconsistent with the objectives of this ordinance. Our proposed use is a fuel station and convenience store, which is directly in line with the existing zoning and the goal to establish or place establishments which cater to highway travelers, visitors in the county, or such businesses or uses where direct access to major arterials is essential or desirable for their operation. Fact B, there are pre-existing exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applicable to the land or the buildings that were not created or self-imposed by us, the applicant, and do not generally apply to other properties in the same zone.
Hey, Natalie, this is Todd. We're still on, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure.
I tried to keep it short for everybody, so I don't have a whole lot of sites to run through.
Got it.
So, per fact B, as you can see, we sit below 11 feet from the top of the grade of the freeway exit. So that is not self-imposed. We would like our sign to be placed right here in this proximity and be visible to the travelers along the freeway, which is the purpose of our proposed use. Fact C, there's the strict or literal interpretation and enforcement of the specified regulation would deprive us, the applicant, of privileges enjoyed by the owners of other properties in the same zone. So we understand that some of these signs, like the pilot sign, has been grandfathered in. However, we still feel like the additional commercial signs in the areas, they have sufficient heights for the frontages they're located on, and they don't have the same proximity or adjacency to the freeway or the topographical hardship that we have So as you can see, our sign, this isn't to scale here, would be about in this area here compared to the Pilot McDonald's and Days Inn signs across the street, which have great visibility. Then for fact D, the granting of a variance as conditioned is the minimum that will accomplish this purpose and will not constitute the granting of a special privilege inconsistent with the limitations on other properties in the same zone. So this is a clip from the sign survey, which you saw earlier, and I drew to scale some proposed sign heights. So the bottom one, the 15 feet, that's roughly where our sign would sit if we weren't able to get the variance granted today. 26 feet, that's the standard 15 feet with 11 feet height added to that. That's where that sign would sit. And then our minimum request, we went in with a request of 110 feet, but we are willing to go down on that. As low as 60 feet would be desirable. But as I said earlier, we're looking to just get greater than 15 feet. And so that's where the 60 feet sign would sit on the horizon. And as for fact E, and then the sign findings of fact 1 and 2, that the granting of a variance will not be detrimental to health, safety, or welfare, or be material injurious to the public or properties. The variance will not detract from the attractiveness or orderliness of the surrounding neighborhood or infringe on similar rights of others. And the granting of a variance will not create a hazard to public safety. We believe our request meets these. We are hoping to get an increase in height so that we can improve driver visibility along the exit. A lower sign cuts off the visibility of the Trans-Western Road. It also cuts off the visibility of the horizon and the natural scenery. Our goalpost design, additionally, since it wouldn't have like a thicker base on the bottom, also provides visibility underneath the actual sign. And we would also meet all the colors and materials as designated in the Belmont area plan. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you very much. That was very good. It complemented Zach's information that he provided also. So thank you for the additional photos.
You're very welcome.
Does anyone else have any question of the applicant? And is there anyone else that would like to speak for the applicant?
My name is Todd Leslie. I'm a senior manager with EPS Group. And Natalie, thank you. Great job going through the presentation.
And great. Can you also provide mailing address, please, for the record? Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. 1030 North Alma School Road in Mesa, Arizona.
Thank you.
So Natalie did a great job walking through our requests. And working with Speedway, the main concern for Speedway is customer visibility. You know, most of the traffic going to Speedway will be coming from I-40. Visibility from I-40 really needs to happen before the exit ramp. So if we were to restrict the sign height for the ordinance, we wouldn't see the sign, maybe not even when we're passing by the site. So we're asking for some consideration of additional height so that a driver can see at a minimum, as Natalie pointed out, 60 feet seems to be the minimum height to be visible from I-40 and make a decision to exit the freeway to go to Speedway. So we're asking for some variance in that. The additional sign, as Natalie stated, seems to be allowed through design review under the heavy commercial 10,000 zone. And the main purpose of the secondary sign is once you're off the freeway, there's a series of turns, the new roundabouts, there's the entrance to the pilot. So it's more of a directional sign to guide traffic to Speedway once you're off the freeway. So I just wanted to add those couple points.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Madam Chair, this is Bob Short, Principal Planner. I would, hello. I would like to kind of explain what they're doing with the DRO. There is kind of an obscure section in the under the signs, as it was just being explained by Todd, that indicates that in the DRO you can ask for additional signage. So their current request is for 2 signs, each in the same locations, each at about 72 square feet. So I just wanted to clarify that they can ask for that as part of the DRO.
Okay. So Zach, if a sign was approved, a second sign was approved, then the variance would be what you would go to, and it wouldn't go through design review then, correct?
Well, Madam Chair,
tell me how design review works, overlay.
Right. So what the applicant and what Bob were discussing is, again, like Bob said, a pretty obscure section of the signage ordinance, and I haven't really seen it used in the 10 years that I've worked here, but it does say through the design review process, there can be basically some waivers of sign. It just says of sign requirements, basically. So the variance is the more proper approach to getting a variance, something different from the normal performance standards. But apparently the Planning and Zoning Commission is given some leeway to also give some differences from the typical performance standards as well. So, and Bob can correct me on this, but it seems like in both processes, they can get some allowances that are above and beyond the typical standards. So, I mean, they will have to do, this process is for a sign that's kind of well above and beyond what's required, or what's typically required. And I think that they've kind of tamed down their requests for the design review. Bob, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, that's correct. So there's signage that they've requested under design review. And Madam Chair, this is unusual. I've never seen it before, and Zach has never seen it before. It apparently has been in the code for a long time. I'm not sure if previously staff has done this, but it does say that you can ask for additional signage, as part of the DRO process from the Planning Commission only. So what they've requested at this point, they indicated they'd like to ask for that. And we looked at it and we said, yes, it looks like you can ask for additional signage. So they've asked for those 2 signs instead of 1. They're both 15 feet in height, so not very high, not very tall, nothing like what they're asking in this variance. And I also wanted to mention that this may be unusual for jurisdictions as well, but our conditional use permit process allows for the Planning and Zoning Commission to approve different kinds of signage, more than is typically allowed, available to applicants. So there's a couple of different ways that you can request additional signage. Interestingly, if you happen to not be in an area plan where the DRO is required, or you're not required to get a conditional use permit, you can't get anything in addition in terms of additional signage except as a variance through the board. So our code is a little bit different in that sense.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate your information. All right, at this point would anybody on the board have any questions of the applicant? And I'm
not from John.
Okay, and Chris, are you good?
Actually, I do have a question. It sounds like, maybe I'm misinterpreting something here, but it sounds like it's negotiable as far, not the number of signs, but the height of the sign. Am I correct in that? Or am I just assuming something that I shouldn't be?
That is correct. We would like to have an open discussion about an acceptable height.
And Madam Chair, is that something that is a normal procedure?
I think that would be more of a question to Zach, but historically, we're looking to look at the merits, and what we can do at this point is talk, and we can consult Zach on questions if we have them, like right now, and then we can talk to the applicant. But if it's my understanding, the variance, it can be changed as long as it doesn't exceed the original request. Is that correct?
I just want to verify that is my understanding as well. We legally noticed for the two signs, the 110 feet in height for the one of them, and the 260 square feet for the one of them. So we don't want to exceed that, but I think that the board is able to make a decision that would be less intensive of a variance than that. Of course, you don't have in front of you a lot of the information to make that decision, but it's all up to you as far as whether you want to do that or not.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at this point, then I am going to close the public portion, and we will talk among the board. We may have questions of staff. We may have questions of the applicant, but at this time, you would only speak if you were asked a question. So I'm going to go ahead and start that process. And so, in one of the things I always kind of like to add it when we start is some of the background I feel that, and one is having served on my area's area plan and its revision. I just want to say that when we are working with areas that have had area plans, that we really not only are looking at the zoning codes, we should be looking at the area plan also, because that is what the residents have chosen. We are looking at an area with mixed use with residential directly adjacent to it. And so that would be part of my consideration when I look at the findings of fact here today. One thing I do want to note that I saw that when Natalie was giving us one of those last slides, when you were showing the height at 152660, what I noticed is in that picture is very clear to see is directly to the south is the sign that ADOT has that tells what services are available at that location. So that signage is almost directly to the south of where this sign is looking to be placed. Also is that ADOT signage is there telling the travelers who are looking for gas, convenience, food, whatever, that there are options for them to turn off there.
I couldn't agree more. You know, when I'm in places, areas driving along, need gas that I'm not completely, or if I'm semi-familiar with, I always look at the signs that you reference for the services that are available. And as you approach that exit, seeing that sign, you'd know, I need fuel, you would get off there. And as you're driving up the ramp, you're looking right across, directly adjacent into what appears to be a fairly large gas station with a mini mart there. I mean, it's pretty obvious that it's there, with or without a sign, and the branding is going to be on the canopy. All you need is some pricing information, and you know, obviously they're following that pilot sign. It's on the north side of the highway, you know, pulling up to a stop sign, and there's another business right here. I think everybody's going to know that there's a gas station, that there's 2 gas stations there without any problem. Let me check my notes here. Anybody else have something?
Well, I was going to say, John, were you on the board? And I don't know if this predates Zach or not, with that we had a very similar case in Munns Park on the west side of the road, because we had that exit is below grade. And that was, when I think about this case, that case came to mind. This one has a very minimal amount of footage below grade, but you know, that was, we had a gas station wanting to go in where truly somebody could literally drive right by it and not see it because it was below. But we did go with the fact, you know, part of it is that's what those ADOT service signs are for. They're to help communities and businesses be able to have the information to share on signages without having to overload the viewways and impact the natural scenery that people are driving through in northern Arizona. I mean, there's some beautiful mountains. You know, you've got A1 Mountain right there, and so it's a very, even though we have industrial land and commercial land, it's a big residential area. So keeping aesthetics to me would be important in this area.
I think pretty much all over. Go ahead.
I agree. As far as, you know, I think that the requested height is out of line. I don't have a problem with the second sign directing parking. I'm not sure how that would be fitted in as far as how this all works, but you know, I think it can be confusing when you try and pull into a business and there's multiple turnoffs and exits and whatever. That I don't see a problem with just a sign simply saying truck parking, and it seems to fit the size and other requirements. As far as the sign that is so tall, the actual business sign, I sympathize with the fact that they're 11 feet below the grade, and I think that the compromise of 26 feet might be appropriate. I know they'd like more, but to stick with what the community is interested in and with the area plan, and I know, you know, living in an area that has an area plan, you do want that followed. But regarding the fact that it is actually down below grade and you're allowed 15 feet, that if we just go to 26, it seems that would be a pretty good compromise. That's just kind of where I'm thinking as far as moving the process along here. But I'm open
go ahead.
I'm open to suggestions and your thoughts.
I agree. I had similar thoughts that raising it to 26 or in that area. But I also think that and the gal who presented did briefly mention, and I had thought of it, you have to be worried about sight lines possibly. And there's trees and there's oncoming traffic and there's how well can you see the sign. And I'm really thinking that if we did give leeway to raise it out of the retention basin and up to more of the elevation that the ramp is at, that you really, somebody would have to look at it and make sure that we weren't approving something that could be dangerous. And I don't know if a tree would have to be cut down even to see it, or as I say, oncoming traffic. I'm not sure that I know all that there is to know about that. So I would be afraid to approve something on the corner sign, even if it was as small as it's supposed to be per code, and give a height that we think sounds right. I would be afraid that we might be approving something improper. So I would think that they just want to amend their submittal for the variance for something like that.
Zach, question to you. If we were to go ahead and approve with that condition, then does it still have to go through the design review phase or planning and zoning phase? How does it, what's the next step? Would there be that oversight that John's mentioning as far as making sure that it would be safe and not a hazard navigationally?
Mr. Wani, I think there are a few options here. certainly regardless of whether a variance is approved or denied, or if they didn't come for a variance at all, design review overlay through the Planning and Zoning Commission would be required. So that could be somewhat of another bite at the apple, I think. I think that I could recommend wording on a condition that a 26-foot high sign, and we would, I don't know if the board is also going to look at the square footage that they are requesting, because they have the 260 square feet there. I could put in some language, something like, a review by the Public Works Department and/or Engineering Division for traffic safety shall be conducted, ensuring traffic safety prior to construction of the sign, something along those lines. So those would be some options.
Thank you. And I do have concerns over the size as well.
I think so.
I don't see that. That's probably their standard size. I'm speaking, just guessing here, but I'm assuming that is what they use throughout their different facilities, and they would probably like to keep it that size. But I don't know that we should allow something that huge that is specifically prohibited by the area plan and code.
Yeah, when you go back to the beginning of the presentation by staff, so much time is spent on our comprehensive plans, so much input, years of input into the comprehensive plan. It's now going to, you get years of input into area plans. I mean, these things are, and if you go back to, if we're going to be making decisions right now, because this is kind of what happens, we start with our plan being developed, we talk to applicants, we come back. But I think at this point too, we have to come back to is we're looking at 2 signs where one is allowed. We're looking at a sign height. So we have, and then we're looking at sign size. So we have 3 things that are coming into play here. And I think what we have to do is look at each one of them separately, and then we have to look at how they all play out together if there is going to be a modification and a variance that is going to be looked at to be approved or not. So I think one of the things, so we can just make it potentially just go through and starting from, so I've heard that, from both of you saying, oh, second sign seems fine. It's for parking. It's still a second sign, no matter what. So right there, you have a second sign that is not compliant with zoning or area plan. It increases signage. So look at that as you come in. Right now you have a lot of businesses, and now, so we to a certain extent, did those businesses get 2 signs? Probably not. I don't remember getting a variance for a second sign on any of them. So right there, if you do go with a second sign, you're giving your applicant, who is to be working under Coconino County's, revised plans. I mean, these plans are for today. They've been given a lot of thought. This Belmont is a big growing area, and with a lot of multi-use. You have to think of the impact on a second sign also on residential properties that are directly adjacent to it and across the street from it. This property is snuggled up against townhouses to the north and in a big residential area to the east. So second sign needs to be looked at. I have to say, I'm a no-go on sign number 2. Sign height, I think the applicant's sign height was unbelievably excessive. I think there's the one in Tuba City that moved out onto the reservation. I think that was like 80 feet, and that was still just the McDonald's was, if you've ever driven by that and just seen and think of this as higher than that. So I think we, you know, talking about working with the topography is one thing, and looking at a height difference there is something that I think might make sense for the situation. And then we have to go to number 3, which is the size, which again, I do not think when you are right by an ADOT sign, when you are definitely at a commercial interstate interchange, that you need a larger sign than code. So that's my input. So
I agree with you. I think that second sign, it says, hey, if you're a truck or whatever, make a right here. I mean, you could also do that with one of those little T-posts and a little thing about this big. But I'm sure they'd want something a lot nicer, but somehow it must be in a different category. And if it's a sign that's 5 feet tall and it's made out of some, you know, wood or stone or something that blends in, I'm guessing it would be under, a directional sign is under a different part of the code. I don't think you need a 15-foot tall sign to say make a right here, except to grab their attention away from the pilot, because they might go over to the pilot or something. Yeah, I'm against the second sign, you know, as stated in the variance. And I don't, the way we've been going for a long time is I don't think we really negotiate on the variance. I think it's more of a yes or no thing. And this one I think is fairly complex. So I wouldn't want to be caught trying to describe, you know, all these different changes, except to say that we're open to, you know, 26 feet or 30 feet, but it needs to be checked out to make sure it's safe. And yeah, it can't be any bigger than what the code says as far as the area of that main big sign. I mean, they're going to have these other signs on the canopy, and it's going to be so obvious there's a gas station there. There's no reason to break the law, to break the code for this thing. I mean, we're not allowed to, and also there's no reason to.
Yeah, no, you're going to have, you know, I know when I pull into where I have a choice of businesses, you're going to have a brand new gas station. People love that. Just, it's clean, it's nice, it's got everything. It's got the displayage. It's got, you know, the fact that it's a newer, it's closer, newer, you know, there's already a lot of, you know, things that will work in the favor. I'm really concerned about light spillage from a taller sign. I'm worried, you know, that when the code is made, it's made for a certain reason. And, you know, my background is I've sold a lot of the homes in the Belmont area. And when people ask about the commercial, I'd say, yes, you're next to commercial zoning, but commercial zoning has standards it has to meet. So to me, it's hard for me to represent that when you have a situation where, you know, you're next to commercial, but you assume that the commercial is going to work with the guidelines, and then when the commercial gets variances, it really undermines, I think, the integrity, and that's why we have findings of fact. And truly, I know Zach says that the health, safety, and welfare is not to be that you could make it, but I think a big sign is distractive from the freeway. I think it is it isn't great for health, safety, and welfare to have an oversized sign next to the freeway. So I could not find the findings of fact.
I could not make one finding of fact.
As it is, I agree. If there were, I can't even imagine how we could make enough compromises to make it where, as our role, we could find any of those facts. I think we have to go against it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. And if we feel we've touched on,
I would Go ahead.
You, John.
I propose to disapprove variance VAR-21-004.
I second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So that is a unanimous disapproval of the variance request. And our next item would be, I don't know that we have any cases for next month or not. If Marty knows of any, no?
We don't have any.
Okay, then we'll look for a motion to dismiss.
I just want to interject real quickly that I will not be available next month if a case comes up. So I'm not here on that day. I'll be on a jet.
We can Zoom from a jet.
I don't know. It might be a little tricky.
Oh yeah, I won't be either. I'm going to be in Italy.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Well, so next month, Zach didn't think we had any meetings for October. So, and that's what month you were talking about.
Correct.
Okay. So it looks
just in
like
case something came up.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time. Thank you, staff. And thank you. And good luck to the applicant.
Thank you.
I move to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.